Glad to have everybody here today. Laura is on vacation and she will be for a couple weeks. So Lori's going to sit in along with Rachel and they will make sure you're taken care of. I gave Lori some instructions about when to drop things into the Zoom chat. Rachel, between the two of you, I'm sure everybody's going to be well taken care of. Welcome, everybody, and happy upcoming weekend. Today, our book to biz. Apply, act, and achieve. Rachel and I struggled over the right order in there, and we decided apply and then act and achieve would be the right order for that. And today it's the Essential HR Handbook. And I was a little concerned about this ahead of time as to how exciting this was going to be. And I think if maybe we had called this the Essential People Handbook, it might have sounded a little more exciting rather than that HR term. But I had fun developing the prompt, and I think you guys are going to get some value out of this as well. So excited to be doing that here together. And it mentions since 2008, busy managers by the tens of thousands have turned to this best-selling book as a handy guide to the ins and outs of human resources. Now, you're going to get a feel for what's in here today. You may find that you want to go invest in this book. Up to you, but I think there's some pretty great things inside here. So let's move on down. Resources normally for a free version of ChatGPT. If you have not used this before, you can go to chat.openai.com and just type in a quick little message and see what you get back. And you're going to be getting copies of the slides, this set of slides, and you're going to find links throughout. So all of those links are going to be clickable when you get there. Now, you'll also, from these slides, if you want to download a file, Lori will put the slides into the Zoom chat, not ChatGPT, but your Zoom chat. And now you'll be able to download those and or once you've done a download, you'll be able to just open them directly from that Zoom chat. And moving on, we're getting together today because we want to be heroes. We can be heroes for ourselves, our families, our clients. AI is here and it is moving rapidly. I follow some other podcasts and it's amazing the things that are going on right now. And what's happening now is that there are some major school systems. I believe the Miami-Dade County, which is apparently one of the largest school districts in the country, has adopted AI in K through 12. And so who knows if other school districts are going to be taking that AI training on. And they're setting something up so that they have guardrails around so that the students aren't using AI to cheat, but it's to help them and mentor them to get through what the teachers want them to be learning. So that's coming at you from I'll call it from below, from the younger generation on up, and the bigger companies are adopting it very rapidly. And it won't be too long before, if you want a job in one of those major companies, you're going to need to be able to prove that you know your way around AI. Our goal is to be more joyful in our work, and we've found that it can make us much more joyful. I love just being able to, I have a question in my mind, I can just buzz over and ask ChatGPT, and I might not get a perfect answer right away if I'm researching something, but it's going to get me pretty darn close, much better than just going out there and searching around on my own. Of course, for our teams, we want our teams to work better, and we can be heroes for our clients by either solving problems on their behalf by using AI, or we can train them how to use AI on their own. So either way, it's going to work. It's going to make everybody's life better. Our agreements are that we are recording. Recordings are going to be available in 5 to 7 business days. I am lagging a little bit behind getting those out. So this coming week, I will be sending out the recordings from 2 weeks ago. But you guys know exactly where to find that recordings page. And you can always go get the slides, the prompts, and the recordings from that page. And of course, because we want to honor those folks who are showing up on time, we will close the doors to the workshop when we first start sharing the prompts to download, which is usually 10 to 12 minutes after we start. And that means that we're not going to have to interrupt those of you who are working to explain to people that are coming in late what we're doing. We'll just keep everybody happy that way. Confidential information. Now, today, especially with our topic, you might want to be a little careful to anonymize any internal employee issues that you are trying to resolve through this HR handbook. So, especially make sure that you watch that confidentiality today as you go through and apply the prompt. And I'm not sure if we'll have breakout sessions today, depends on how many people we have. So we'll make a final determination here pretty quickly as to whether we'll have breakout sessions or if we'll just kind of share as a large friendly group. We'll know that here pretty soon. And I got involved in AI. I knew something about it. I did one or two things in it. And then I started exploring a company called Simple, and the fellow that started it up, his name is Steve Cunningham, and he started the Simple AI Consultants Group. There are over 100 of us now, AI focused consultants, where we share our training. And they do offer some terrific training options. We have free and paid options. And through Simple, I learned that you can use AI at every role within every organization. It's not just about the IT department anymore, or about people who are really smart coders or who are really tech oriented. Of course, we know that there are people who are really into the tech part, and a lot of us have been lucky enough to have some of those tech people around or have had to learn tech over the years. But the great thing about AI is that we can talk to it like another person without having to be somebody who has learned how to code and be very technologically proficient. I'd like to stop and ask two people to talk about how they're getting involved with AI in either their daily work, in their team, or with their clients. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, and I'm going to limit it to two people so we can keep moving because this is going to be a fun prompt today.
Daniel.
Go ahead, make sure you're unmuted.
Yep, I'm
And
unmuted. Sorry, I
okay.
just moved my hand. I didn't mean to raise my hand. Sorry about that.
Oh, so you don't want to share anything? Have you been using AI?
Oh, currently? Yeah, actually, I've been going through, I'm doing AI back based on one of the exercises we did earlier. I'm thinking about on the career expansion or the career growth seminar we did. There
Uh-huh.
was some good feedback on maybe a way that I could change my offerings a bit. And so I've been working on creating an offering to do like short design sprints and leveraging AI as a way of doing that. So I've been going back through a lot of some of my prior work and using an AI software called Viscom. And what Viscom does is it allows you to generate images, but with a lot more control. So you can start with something like a thumbnail sketch or even a finished drawing that you've done in the past, and then you can take it and then have it modify it or render it in a different style. And so it's a way of creating a more glamorous, more finished look, but you have control over the image much more than sometimes when you're doing it by text, you're having to take what you get, even though you're not 100% satisfied. So I've been able to, over the last week, generate several thousand of these images that would have
Wow.
taken months and years to do. It's fun. And it's also a great way of taking something that may be 10 or 20 years old and you can freshen it up and have it modernize it in a way, which is interesting. So, anyway, I'm going to be using some of these new images to build my new website. And I'm trying to figure out now how I can animate the images. That's another cool thing that Viscom has is you can take a 2D flat image that you've done and it will actually rotate it and create like a 3D image, but it looks like your sketch. It doesn't convert it into a photorealistic thing necessarily. It can look like your drawing. As it rotates, your drawing becomes three-dimensional. So the software is quite powerful. So I've been enjoying working with that.
And let's take one more minute. Is there anybody else that wants to volunteer? Oh, I'm seeing John. Just unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you, Diane. As a coach consultant, I use it every day.
And it used to take me months to design a course. And I can design a course using chat within a couple hours, 4 or 5 hours.
Wow,
And
that's
and it was the
amazing.
scary thing is it really, unfortunately, it knows me pretty well. So when I ask it to speak in my voice, and it goes back, and every once in a while I do a lot of ministry, and every once in a while it'll bring up Bible verses and whatnot in my answers, and I'm saying, where did that come from?
Uh-huh. I'm going to show you one thing today in the prompt that you might want to incorporate if you're trying to keep things strictly business as opposed to some of the more personal things. Thank you guys for sharing because we all learn from each other in different ways that we can use this incredible new tool that we have available for us. You can download and save the PDF slide deck from the Zoom chat. And today, what we're going to be looking at is asking ChatGPT to help you apply the ideas from today's book into your work or your business and some examples and idea starters. I'm going to say, have you ever encountered any employee issues? Anybody? Anybody who has not encountered employee issues or had their clients encounter employee issues? I see everybody smiling. Yeah, it's just they're people issues. So, some of the primary concepts within this book that get covered are talent acquisition and hiring, performance management, compensation and retention, employee relations and communication. And there are many more chapters in the book about various aspects, and you will see some of those topics as you move through the prompt. And of course, always keep your prompts so you can use them again. And they are available out on that recordings page to download as well. Now, if you can download and copy today's prompt into your chat GPT, now don't do anything with it yet, please, because I would just like to point out a couple little things. And one of the things that I have encountered as I've been working through things to cover for the workshops, I sometimes I just go ask ChatGPT to create a prompt for me. I'll say, here's what I'm trying to do. Here are my participants. I want to look at this. I want to think about that. And it will come up with a pretty nice prompt that I can just revise. This time it just fell on its face. ChatGPT is not perfect. And so finally I went, hey, I can do a better job. And so I just started writing it myself. Then I tested it and then I came back in and made a couple of tweaks, but it didn't take me too long. Now, I'm not here to teach prompt writing, but I'm going to point out a couple of things. So, first of all, you'll see on the front end, please ignore my memories for this prompt. Now, I did this because I had asked it to stop and ask about my role, the kind of company, and so on. It just skipped right past it. And so I ended up asking it. I said, why didn't you ask me these questions? Because I said, get these answers. And it says, oh, I know everything about you. You've been putting the same stuff in over a long period of time. So I don't need to ask you those questions. So I said, okay, fine. I want to do a good test on this. So please ignore my memories for this prompt. Now, John, you might want to just say, ChatGPT, please ignore my scriptural background or something if it's a business prompt, or you can give it some front end information about what memories you want to use. My understanding too is in the paid version, you can actually go out into your memories and tell it to segregate different types of memories. Let's say you've got health things that you've been asking about and you want to keep that separate from business things, or if you're using it for certain presentations. So on the front end, you can tell it what you want it to ignore or to use. And so in here, I'm saying, please act as an expert HR advisor using the concepts from the book, The Essential HR Handbook, and to help me resolve HR challenges within my organization, past or present. Alternatively, I may describe an HR problem that one of my clients is experiencing. So back to that, how are we using it for ourselves, for our company, or maybe for our clients? And so then here's where I ask it to grab the information about me. And it says, do not move to the next step until I have provided the following. Because this prompt is building one step upon another. And then I said, ChatGPT, list the chapters in the book and include a brief synopsis in the HR challenge that each chapter addresses, and keep the listing to 500 to 600 words so you get a nice brief synopsis. And then after completing the synopsis, ask me to describe either a past or current HR challenge from my own company or a client's HR problem. Wait for my answer before proceeding. Again, if you think of this as an assistant, say, don't interrupt me. Let me finish. Let me get this information out. And I want you to wait then before you go to the next step. And then ask me if I'd like you to suggest 1 or 2 chapters from the book that would help me address the issue. So I wanted to interact with you. If I answer yes, then identify those chapters and provide specific suggestions from those chapters to help me or my client take specific steps to resolve the problem. Provide those suggestions in a step-by-step format. I'm saying don't just give me 3 paragraphs. I want a piece at a time. And then help me develop an action plan for my company or for my client. Outline actionable step-by-step actions I can take to apply these insights within my organization, or if applicable, provide several helpful suggestions I could provide to my client. So this is a little mini how to write a prompt process. So hopefully you can use that for yourself. But one of the things that you need to do is think through what are the logical steps? What do I want it to look at? How do I want it to think about itself? What do I want as output? What do I want as my outcome? And you have to try to think logically. And if you don't get the answer that you want, if you're developing your own prompt, think about the order in which you're putting that information in. So I hope you find that to be helpful. And now you guys can go ahead and Control A from your text file is going to select everything. Control C will copy it, and then go over into your AI and do right click Control V. And that is going to go ahead and get that copied in. And then I'm going to start. We'll have about 12 minutes of library time. And I'm running a couple minutes behind, but we'll make sure that this all comes together and to be done on time. Let's go ahead. I'm going to mute myself. I'll turn off my camera. I'm starting the timer. We hit the end of our 12 minutes. It's amazing how quickly that can go by, isn't it? We have a little bit smaller group today, so I think let's just stay in our big group and maybe we can kind of go around. Now, if you would like to volunteer to be towards the front end, you can just raise your hand, but I'd like everybody to participate. I much appreciate it after the work that goes into putting this together to have everybody share. That would be wonderful. So raise your hand if you're willing to be on the front end.
Diane, I'm happy to step up and open the conversation if that's okay.
Thank you. Sure.
All right. So in my past life, I actually have had responsibility for writing these types of HR policies and employee handbooks and would spend weeks and hours drafting policies that were relevant to the company, that had to be in compliance with local laws, and making those suitable for our particular work environment. This particular chat I found really exciting because I'm actually familiar with the book because I have used it in the past. But I leaned into ChatGPT a little bit by not only going through your prompt, but then by telling it that I have this specific policy that I want to write in regards to employees in the state of Michigan, for example. Michigan has a new sick pay leave law that they put into place at the beginning of 2024, I believe it was, that's very similar to California's leave law. So I asked ChatGPT to put together a policy about excessive absenteeism first, to outline what that would look like. And then I asked it to go in and take a look at what is the Michigan requirements? What would a sample policy look like? Be sure to include how an employee would request to be paid for sick pay, and then also provide references, links to references, so that someone looking at this policy could do more research if they felt compelled to. And it did that. It was a matter of just a minute and it was done. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I asked it, how much time did you save me by writing this Michigan policy for me? And it was clearly 2.5 hours. I asked it to do the same thing for California, to draft a sample policy for the state of California, because California's sick time law is similar but not the same. It did the same thing. I asked it to update how a person could request the time off. What would that look like? And then I went into asking ChatGPT how to help me formulate a non-discrimination policy for both hiring and for placing those job listings, those job postings. How do I stay in compliance with showing that we're non-discriminatory and that we're going to welcome everyone? And again, I did that for Michigan compliance. It kicked it out, saved me about an hour and a half, and came out in very plain English, very easy to follow. So again,
Thanks.
leaning into those chats and just keep digging and keep asking more questions as they come up. I'm just amazed at what chat can save, how much time it can save in this kind of administrative arena. And so I'll pass
Okay.
this back over, let someone else go.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. We only have about 6 or 7 more minutes, so let's go quickly around the rest of the group. And Daniel, did you ever have any employee issues that you needed to address?
Yeah, it's interesting. So right now I don't, because I'm like a sole proprietor. So the only employee I have to worry about is myself. But I did put in a hypothetical situation. The last assignment I had with my last employer was a particularly difficult one because I had two bosses that were giving me conflicting direction. They had conflicting styles. One was playing good cop, one was playing bad cop. And it was like one of those situations where what's the right thing to do in a situation like that? It was from a fairly brief description. I guess the thing that always amazes me about ChatGPT is it has this ability to, in a very succinct and clear way, articulate what the problem is and what's going on. And then also it gave a pretty good diagnosis about what was happening. And then funny, maybe it's a little too gratifying. It's like you're not in the wrong. It's actually a toxic, dysfunctional office, right? And they went through a list of things to do, document the situation, make sure you're writing things down, maybe seek help from someone else in the organization. And then actually, what the step that I ended up taking was know when to exit. And that's what I ended up doing just for my own sake. But anyway, I found it helpful because it was a way of almost validating what you went through from a objective. It's like a third person objective observation. And then I thought it gave pretty good, clear advice around what to do. So I guess the thing that was shocking to me was the company that I worked for prided themselves on good leadership. And for all the other assignments I had in the company, they exemplified that. But this particular one last particular assignment was such an anomaly. It was almost shocking to me while it was happening that I could almost not believe it. So it was very hard to know how to respond at the time. I'm looking back on it with a couple of years of clarity now, but I thought it gave good advice and some good action steps to take.
Great, thank you. And of course, this was not ChatGPT totally on its own. I mean, ChatGPT
Yes,
might have come up with this on its own,
right.
but
From
it
the book,
was,
right?
yeah, it was pulling from that top level two experts.
Yes.
And apparently, this has been around for a while and continues to be a bestseller. Dr. Natalie, can I call on you? Thanks, Daniel.
I was actually just writing a message in the chat. I have to jump off for another meeting. Shoot. We'll just say really quickly before I go. I had a similar experience. I didn't do it from an HR perspective because I'm essentially a sole proprietorship and I'm no longer working with my virtual assistant. But I have been excited and really rather flabbergasted with the acuity of the prompts and how it really, once I get really deft at it, how it can take the place of a virtual assistant in so many ways. And I just want to extend thanks, Diane, Rachel, all of you who share. This is such a fascinating new world that's opening up for me. It providing feedback, it providing critiques, it providing suggestions. It really, people will argue that it's not necessarily at human level intelligence thus far, but it sure mimics logic pretty well if you ask the right prompt. And so I'm really excited for where it's could take me as a clinical psychologist and life coach. There's so many people who flood the market as life coaches nowadays. So I'm really hoping to utilize this to help me carve out my niche and make me stand out in some ways. So cool.
And
I will see you guys again.
yeah, Shai is going to be reaching out to each of you, and we would just really appreciate your feedback, honest feedback as to what kind of value you're getting, or even suggestions for improvement for the future. Shai will be, I know she's been sending emails out here. Michael, let's hear what you came up with. Thank you, Dr. Natalie.
I put it in for an employee, a remote part-time employee not getting their job done on time. And not that I have that issue, it just was something I thought would be interesting to see what it says. And it gave me a summary of the problem. And then I asked it to, of course, do the chapters. And it came up with chapter 5, performance management, and 11, the remote workforce. And then it gave me a step-by-step guidance based on the book of clarifying the expectations in writing and schedule a formal performance conversation. Ask the employee for input, set SMART goals, and then follow up. And then in the remote workplace is implement a shared task management system. And even though I told it to forget my history, it still came up with Microsoft stuff and ClickUp that it knows I use. So that was funny. It didn't come up with Asana or other things like that are out there. Define availability hours and daily check-ins and document in a remote work agreement. And then it came up with an action plan with 7 steps with the action, the tool or resource, and the timeline. And then to do a template. So yes, I asked it for a template and it did a nice template, including a script template for the meeting to have with the employee and to go through with this, like, these are nice ways to ask the questions to get the information. And then it gave me a template for an email to set up the information and then the task tracker. And that's as far as I got, because then it came up and do you want these templates in Word and Excel? And I just stopped right there.
Yeah. So yes, and you can copy and paste things out into Word. I've had better luck with the copy paste over into Word rather than having ChatGPT do that. But the other thing, concept here is how many of us have worked with clients that, gosh, sometimes I actually get to do accounting work with my clients because they'll dump a lot of things on you about what's going on in their life and in their company. So again, thinking about how can we use some of these kinds of things to help our clients out. And Shai, are you willing to share what you came up with?
For me, I focus on how to improve training to increase the potential of an individual, like a team member. And it provided me chapters of 1 and 4 as well. And it provided me a timeline on how to have trainings and what to do, like a checklist as well, and like a performance matrix as well as a follow through after your training. So for me, a guided outline on what to do eventually to increase the potential of an employee, it gives straight away. And you just have to tweak it based on the needs of the further needs, like what are the other training needs of the company.
There. Thank you so much. Everybody contributed, and hopefully we all learned from each other. And I won't go through mine, but the situation that I had described, it gave a very nice synopsis. It pulled on 2 different chapters and gave me a step-by-step improvement program. And or sometimes you have to make up your mind whether you do want to continue to invest in an employee that is not meeting the needs that you're looking for. So thanks so much. This very quickly is, I always say this is our ad page. If you guys get a chance to go out and look at any of these resources that I've developed working with people over the years to help them with their accounting and or job costing, I think you'd find these to be fairly helpful either for you or your clients, because I developed each one of these in response to specific client needs. For instance, finding out what each one of your employees costs for every hour that they are working on projects for you. And AI tips. This is a repeat from earlier in the week about what is user experience. And I've come up with the approach of repeating our tips, because for me, when I write down a tip, sometimes it's here today and gone tomorrow. And having a repeat sometimes can be very helpful. And of course, if we are working on our website, on coming up with a better site for ourselves, or even looking at somebody else's site, I know sometimes maybe you guys have been on somebody's site and they're going, how do I get from here to there? That's a user experience. And sometimes it can be very useful to have ChatGPT look at your site or specific pages and get that feedback. Sometimes it's hard to get other people to give you good, honest, insightful, useful feedback. Whereas having AI look at your site, it's always complimentary. I will say this, ChatGPT and AI will almost always compliment you and say this is good, but it will also give you some suggestions for improvement. And so the other thing you might want to tell ChatGPT when it's looking at your pages or your site to say, I'm open to honest feedback. Go ahead and tell me anything else that you think that I should improve, or am I missing something? Okay, so use these guidelines as to what's good user experience and what's poor user experience. Our last page is what is coming up. Looking ahead, 2 weeks from this last Tuesday, is Michael is going to come out and share with us a session called ChatGPT, your new CFO sidekick. And he's providing us with some information from, what's the name of the company that's part of
Greg's
Intuit?
Landscaping.
Craig's Landscaping. So he said that the dollar amounts aren't extensive, but we're going to see what we get. And Michael's going to lead us through that. And I've taken a look at his prompt, and it looks very interesting. So he's going to show us how he put that prompt together. So that's great. And 2 weeks from today, we're going to go with a book called Upstream: The Quest to Solve Problems Before They Happen. Now, that's truly preventive maintenance, right? How do we solve a problem before it even comes up? So that's being able to look back to the future. And Dan Heath, I have listened to this book and I found it just really fascinating. Just a reminder, have you refined? Remember, thinking back a couple weeks, we worked on our 12-week plan. So have you accounted when you're looking at that plan? Have you accounted for any time away or other commitments that might infringe on that? We actually had a meeting and took those things into consideration internally. And then have you coordinated with your team? We learned a lot by each of us sharing our individual what we thought the 12-week goals should be. And as a result, everybody went away and came back again with slightly revised plans, keeping everything integrated. And then an idea to try before our next workshop is go back and review those websites and pages, because sometimes this is the first and only vision of you that someone may have. And so, because people will go out and I wouldn't call it stalking, but they're going to go out and take a look at you and see what your website looks like. And it's the equivalent of Dress for Success, which used to be a very popular book way back in the day, was how you were supposed to dress in order to make a favorable impression. So, everybody, thank you so much for participating. And I'll look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday, the 17th, a couple weeks out, and Friday, the 20th. Any other comments, suggestions, ideas before we wrap up today?
I will not be here on the 20th. At that time, I should have landed in Orlando by then.
Ah, because it's scaling new heights at that
Yes.
point. Okay. Yep.
Starts on
A big accounting conference coming up that week. So didn't have that in mind when we set our schedule up on the front end. It's been a while. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much. And we will see you, though, before you leave, Michael, on the 17th. And
Yep.
I hope to see everybody else on both dates. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Sounds great. Thanks. Good weekend.
Okay. Bye-bye.